Most people don't quit their job quits them, and nobody sends a save that date. Here's a number that should bother you more than it does.
Well over half of retirees leave the workforce earlier than they'd planned, not because they hit their number, but because something knocked them off the calendar.
A health scare, a layoff dressed up as a restructuring, a parent who suddenly needs full-time care.
And the strange part is, most of these people had a plan, a good one, contributions on autopilot, a tidy spreadsheet, a target birthday circled in the future.
What they didn't have was a plan for the version of retirement where they don't get to pick the exit.
Why does this keep happening to people who did everything right? Stick with me, because the answer isn't about laziness or bad math, it's about which questions the math never asked.
I spent the last few weeks digging through retirement, confidence surveys, employer benefit research, and Social Security's own projections. What I found wasn't one problem, it was three running on separate tracks, all converging on the same stretch of road for anyone currently in their 40s or 50s. Think of retirement planning like packing for a trip based only on the weather forecast for your destination, and ignoring the fact that the road there runs through terrain nobody mapped.
You know where you're headed. You have no idea what's between here and there. A retirement plan without a plan B isn't a plan, it's a wish with a spreadsheet.
Let me tell you about a guy I'll call Tom, 54 years old, a decent 401k balance, 11 years of runway to his target date.
On paper, flawless. Then he tore his rotator cuff doing something completely ordinary, nothing dramatic, just a bad fall.
He was out of physical work for months. While he was gone, his department got restructured. He came back to a smaller role and a smaller paycheck.
18 months after that, a second round of cuts caught him too. He was 57 with maybe a year of cash outside retirement accounts and a wife who'd been out of paid work for a decade.
Was Tom's math wrong? No, his math was fine. What was missing was any version of the plan where the timeline wasn't entirely his to control.
Here's the part that reframes everything. This isn't really a savings problem. It's a timeline problem.
You can hit every savings target for a retirement that starts at 67 and still come up short, because the real start date showed up at 60 uninvited and nobody built a model for that. So what actually happens in the years right around an unplanned exit? There are three costs that tend to hit at once, and each one alone can do damage.
First, the coverage gap. If you leave a job before Medicare eligibility kicks in, you're buying your own health coverage on the open market, and for plenty of people, that's now running well over $1,000 a
Month, sometimes considerably more, depending on income and location.
Multiply that across a few years and you're looking at a 5-figure bill you never budgeted for, paid out of a portfolio that hasn't even started its retirement job yet.
Second, the Social Security clock. Claim early and your benefit is locked in at a permanently lower rate for the rest of your life.
Wait past full retirement age and it keeps growing, guaranteed every year up to age 70. There's no index fund on earth offering a guaranteed annual raise just for patients.
Social Security does. Most people never treat that decision like the financial lever it actually is.
Third, the compounding you lose. Every year you're forced out early is a year of contributions and a year of growth on your entire balance that simply never happens.
Run the math on 5 lost years for a moderate saver, and the gap can swell into 6 figures by the time you actually need the money.
The years you lose to an early exit cost more than the years you planned for. Now, let's go back to someone I'll call Renee.
52. Disciplined, a solid balance, a believable path to a comfortable number by 65. Her plan works, under one condition, that she actually gets to work until 65.
Run her numbers at 61 instead. Health issue restructuring. Doesn't matter which, and her ending balance drops hard.
Add the health care gap. Add a forced early Social Security claim. Add withdrawals starting from a smaller base. The gap between her planned outcome and her likely outcome over a full retirement can run into the hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Same person, same discipline, different door out. Here's a rule you've probably heard. Withdraw 4% a year and your portfolio should last 30 years.
It's a good rule of thumb for the retirement it was designed around. It says nothing about someone leaving the workforce at 60 with a 35 or 40-year horizon ahead of them.
For those longer stretches, researchers generally point towards something closer to 3 to 3. 5% meaningfully less income from the same pile of money, especially if the market has a rough patch in
First few years out. A downturn early in retirement does outsized damage because you're selling more shares from a shrinking account, and that early damage tends to stick.
Why does one generation seem especially exposed to all of this at once?
Because the workers now in their late 40s through late 50s largely missed out on traditional pensions, built their savings almost entirely through 401(k)s during several major market shocks, and
Approaching full retirement age around the same window Social Security's trust fund faces its own funding cliff, a point at which, absent congressional action, benefits could face an automatic cut. That doesn't mean disaster is guaranteed. It means the cushion a lot of people are counting on is thinner than the marketing suggests.
So what do you actually do with this? Renee, for her part, didn't rebuild her entire plan overnight. Most of us won't either.
She did two things. She made sure she was capturing her full employer match, which she'd been quietly leaving on the table.
And she opened a separate account just for the gap years and started feeding it a modest amount every month.
Not a full solution. A buffer and proof to herself that she'd stopped pretending the ambush couldn't happen to her.
You don't need a perfect plan, you need one that survives being wrong about the date. Here's what I'd actually do this week in 3 moves.
1. Stress. Test your plan against 62, not 67.
Pull your current balance and ask what your monthly income looks like if you're forced out a full 5 years early, using a more conservative withdrawal rate to account for the longer horizon.
2. Build a real line item for Medicare health coverage into your budget, even a rough one. It is the most predictable large expense most early exits never see coming.
3. Treat your Social Security claiming age as an investment decision with a guaranteed return, not a scheduling afterthought.
If your portfolio can support waiting, the math usually rewards patience. None of this requires a new job, a new income, or a miracle.
It requires running the number you've been avoiding.
If this helped you see your own timeline differently, hit like. It's the fastest way to make sure Novira Invest shows up in your feed again, and drop a comment telling me what age you're actually
planning around, because the plan that survives isn't the one with the biggest number. It's the one built for the exit you didn't choose.